So I'm out on the wharf again, and it's about to rain. I don't know if you can see like the clouds. I was like, oh, you know what? Perfect day to make a video. So I guess what I want to do today, let's do something simple, you know? I wanted to make a video about a topic that I think is pretty dear to a lot of people. You know, when we're a bit younger, we try to like make ourselves, fit in with other people. We want to do what other people want to do out of peer pressure, all those kind of things, right? But as you get older, you stop caring what other people think about you. You don't have to like fit in with a certain group if you don't want to. You don't have to fit a certain identity. You just be yourself. That's the important thing. When I was a lot younger, I felt like I had to, fit in with more people. I had to change things about myself to make other people like me. And I can't say that feeling always doesn't pop up every once in a while in the mind, but it's not important. We should not change ourselves to fit in with groups that we don't care about in the end. We should do what we want to do as people. Within reason, of course. I mean, if your idea of, I don't want to fit in is let me go on a shooting spree, maybe let's not do that, right? But if you're trying to change your appearance, change the way you think, just to fit yourself in like a puzzle piece somewhere else, it's not really worth doing that, because you're not going to be happy, because you're not going to be yourself. And that's the most important thing, is the concept of self. And I think that often gets lost when we look at things like self-help. When you think of self-help, you think of, I'm helping myself. It's not necessarily the case, because self-help is about the help of the self itself, not you yourself. And self is how you identify. It is who you are as a person. You're transforming and ripping that into what you want it to be. You're helping yourself, but it's not helping yourself. It's a little convoluted. It's not exactly so simple as like a black and white thing. The self is a really interesting concept. It's what you think. It's what you believe. It's what you see in yourself. All these things constitute the self. I mean, I'm getting off topic here, but the point is, you don't want to change yourself to appease other people, because then you're warping and diluting who you are as a person, what you are as a person, and you're not going to be happy, because that's not who you are. You're not like Project A that you want to be to appease the people around you. That's not you. You're James, you're John, you're Cynthia, that is who you are. You just have to find who you are on a deeper level as a person. And again, I go back to, the quote, from Steppenwolf. I think, therefore I am. If you think and identify as a doctor, well, you're going to think and identify as the doctor and act like the doctor, right? Does that make you a doctor? Probably not. But that's what you think. That's what you think. That's where your goals are going to be aligned. That's where your decisions are going to be aligned, is with that. So if you think of yourself as like some low quality, low effort person, your goals are going to be low quality. Your life is going to be low quality. Your thoughts are going to be low quality. And that's not what you want. You want to identify who you are as a person, work on that, mold that, and focus on that. Like, you're John, you have to figure out, okay, well, what does John want? What does John need? What are John's goals? What are John's priorities? Once you figure that out, everything else, it kind of falls into line. And that's why the concept of self-help is not so much about, well, you're just helping yourself. That's too simple. The concept of self-help is identifying the self and working and molding the self into what you want the self to be. You are the self, but you're not yourself, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It's a really abstract concept. I mean, some people refer to this, I guess, as like a frame or something, or I know in like some cases I've referred to it as like a narrative. But the concept of self is so important because the self defines who we are. And your thoughts, your beliefs, your values, all are intertwined with the self. I love how convoluted a lot of this self-help stuff is, especially when you start looking at it from like a psychological point of view and start looking into, behavior psychology or cognitive psychology. I think it is. No, cognitive behavior, I think. That's always what I've been interested in, is like the cognitive side of like, behavior, self-help, things like that. And when you get to that point, a lot of things get really abstract. Abstract things are pretty interesting, There's a lot of depth there. It's not so simple. It's not so black and white, And the thing is, when you are doing a lot of things that are black and white, it's really easy. It's an if or a then. If it's not that, then it's this. When you're looking at yourself is really convoluted. It's divided in so many parts, so many things. You aren't just who you are on the outside. Your appearance isn't essentially just you. You are your beliefs, your actions, your thoughts, your values. It's crazy. Like, you can't just be defined in like 3 words. It's ludicrous to think that. We're so much more than just a simple one sentence, my name is this. Our beliefs, our actions, our thoughts, our decisions, everything, the way we think, what we hold dear to us, our goals, all these things, once you define them, once you understand them, everything in life just starts to fall into place. You might be having trouble with motivation. You might be having trouble with, your decision making. You might be having trouble with your goals, your priorities, what to actually do with your life, your purpose. Once you start figuring out what you believe, what you think, what you care about, everything begins to start falling into place. It's a really interesting thing. Some people get lost in it all because they're like, what should I believe? What should I think? What should this? What should. It's a lot of should. You need concrete answers about, here's what I believe in. Here's what I like. If you believe in, like, let's say God or something, or, Allah, or I think it's Allah. I can't remember. But if you believe in something, let's say in terms of religion, okay, that can kind of help you build a bit of a framework of who you are a little bit. This is what I believe in. I believe in this religion. Well, that does help. A lot of religious texts do help in that regard. They help answer some questions, But I mean, if you're not religious, okay. So you have to think of what value do I hold in my life? Is my family more important than my career? Is my career more important than my family? Am I more important than my family? Am I more important than my career? Is what I want more important? Is money more important? Is women more important? Is men more important? You have to understand these things. Because what's important to you shapes your life. Like, once you understand what you value, what you want in life, you could shape your whole life around that. That gives you motivation. That gives you inspiration. That does so much for you. It's really easy when you start to think about it. You know, if you just like walk around aimless without a direction, without a map, you're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. And once you start narrowing down, you know, what you care about and start putting those things into order, you can start thinking about it more. It's like if you know your family's more important and a decision happens at work that you have to make that will override what's important with your family. For example, like let's say you have to uproot your whole family and not see them as much. Well, if your family's important to you, do you make that decision? Probably not. Even if the money's better. It's like, but my family's more important, so therefore I'm not going to make that decision. See, things like that get easier. It's like, well, money is more important. Okay, well, then you make that decision. Your decision making gets so much easier once you understand what you want as a person, what you want as an individual, you know, and once you believe in things as well, like your beliefs, your values, you wouldn't do something as a decision that goes against what you believe in. You know, because if you hold something dear and you believe in it, don't go against it. It's as simple as that, you know. Like if someone's like, you know, you have to pick between your family or your job, and your family ranks higher than your job, you're picking your family, you know, because that's what you identified as being more important. Now, if it's like, okay, you have to pick your education or your career, well, you have to also pick which of those two things is more important, your education or your career. And I mean, I know I'm talking in circles here, but I'm trying to lay out the point. You know, you don't want other people picking these decisions and these values for you. You need to pick them out for yourself. You need to figure out what matters to you. Then everything else falls into place. You don't want to just start, you know, pigeonholing these things and start picking things that you think other people are going to like. Because then you're going to be miserable. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to fucking be happy at all if you start doing that. And that's the thing, you want to be happy. I mean, unless you want to be miserable, then okay, you know, being miserable is important to you. I've never met someone that's like, yeah, I need to be miserable. Miserable is important to me. I've never met someone like that. No, I don't know. Maybe you know someone like that, whatever, but yeah. So I guess I'll end it there. It's, you have to figure out what is important to you, what your values are, what your goals are, and then, you know, everything starts falling into place. You know, your purpose is to go for the goals. That's simple. And once you understand, all right, my purpose is I want to achieve this, this, and this. That's simple. Now you can start getting motivated to actually go for this, this, and this. If those goals go against what you value, they're not good goals for you. I mean, like I said, everything's intertwined. That's the great thing about self-help. A lot of this is just intertwined. And I can go on that for days. Thank you for listening.